Down the Ullman straight then, under safety, and here comes the safety car to pull out of the way. Nice. That will leave Scott Borchetta to lead this group. The much more modern Ford Mustang from 2013. Look at that, 69 versus 2013. I'll bet you Scott's got the better of him, though, before the end of the straight. We're about to find out as we go racing for Group 6 and Group 12A as they come into Sunset Bend. And in a moment, they'll accelerate away and past our commentary position. Ben Sissel alongside me, Jonathan Green, as we get ready for our SVRA coverage. And the green flag waves, and away they go. Scott Borchetta got a good run down the inside and will lead this race. He now comes across to close the door. And a good start from the Mercury Cougar 2 of Gary Moore. He's up there.
It doesn't get much better than this. Look at this field of cars coming through as they come up to turn 3, a very difficult turn 3. We've had a lot of people misjudge that as Scott Borchetta takes the lead over Phil Lasco. I can't tell who that is. Looks like Scott Hawley is in 4th.
Yeah, I think my man on the Cougar, the Mercury Cougar,
Gary Moore.
Gary Moore
Powered up through there. Good job,
and
Gary Moore. Look at that beautiful Cougar, followed by Jeff Lindstrom in that white Mustang.
So everybody down to the hairpin for the first time. And a really good start from the 63 of Scott Hawley.
Yeah, but watch out for Damon DeSantis right there in that kind of robin's egg blue Porsche, because now they're in the twisty bits, and it's going to work out to the Jaguar and the Porsche's favor here.
At the end of the Fangio
Lipstrom
straight,
looks
turn
inside
10.
at Gary Moore.
Yeah, you can start to see the field spreading. And that's the one thing that the drone has really changed our race coverage for, allowing you to see the gaps physically rather than just on the timing. And that's a big point, an important point. As they turn through 13 and now open up these big engines again. There's that Cougar I mentioned. Can't see his
Gary Moore,
there.
final top Cougar. But now we've got a couple more turns that work in the favor of the Jaguar and the Porsche. But then that Mustang and the Cougar down this long straight are probably going to try to pass. Watch for Gary Moore to try to make a diving pass into 17 to get cars that are a little bit more nimble.
So here they come down the Ullman straight then for the first time. Scott Borchetta in that white and red Corvette from 69, excuse me, leading the much more modern Ford Mustang from 2013. And then comes that lovely little car.
Look at Scott Hawley lock up his brakes just a little bit, coming in.
Well, the same again for the 66 as well, under braking, Wallo Berchinger.
Yeah. Wallo, man, you can really see his hands working in there. He's got his hands full coming around turn 17, which is really bumpy.
Very wide entry there for that Porsche that you mentioned, the all light blue Porsche. And here comes the 66, as I mentioned, coming through into turn 1 now.
Well, it's showing that light blue car is David Hinton, which would make sense. David's a really good driver. I'm not sure who's in his Jägermeister car. I called that wrong earlier, but that is, right now the score's telling us that's David Hinton in that 0-0. As we look at Scott Borchetta here, you can really see the gap that he's pulling just a little bit. He probably has a little bit more horsepower than Lasco, but then Lasco has the brakes with that more modern machinery in that 2013 Ford Mustang.
Yeah, and you see the hairpin there. It's not as tight as it may look on the map, but you can see how quickly they slow down. Ooh, a bit of sideways action there in the 66, but he gathers it all together, Wallo. But from this angle, it looks a lot tighter, but when you see it from above, it just opens up a bit at the exit. That's why they just bounce over the dirt there, down towards the Fangio straight again, up to turn 10. And then when we look on the infield again,
well, according to my scoring, David, well, he's driving 2 cars at the same time.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. Good job. More drone shots right there, the camping. There's that beautiful Jägermeister. 2 cars that have just been finished. James Heck in that 64 Corvette. And then there's that Jägermeister Porsche that really shows up really well. And now these Porsches have the advantage the next 3 corners over that Corvette. James Heck keep them behind us as we look at John DeGainer and John Cloud coming up through Bishop's Bend. I love these drone shots. You really get a good feel for what all's happening here at the Sebring International Raceway for the Sebring Speed Tour. Do you have a favorite corner of this track, Jonathan?
Well, I was just saying, this is the trickiest part, I think, by the airfield, where they come into this long straight, and it's very high speed before they hit the Ullman Straight, which of course is just flat out before you hit Sunset Bend, which they're coming into now. But yeah, I would have said the trickiest part of this circuit is alongside the airfield there, the current airfield, and then they go back onto this Ullman Straight part of the old airfield, and then down into Sunset. But that to me, certainly, as we look at Damon DeSantis in the Porsche 911, the yellow and black, as they cross the line again. The gap Scott Borchetta now has built just under a second of a gap to Phil Lasco, so it's still a very good race indeed. Scott Holley now third, Jeff Lindstrom in fourth place, Gary Moore drops to fifth, David Hinton in the 00 is in sixth place. Wallow Burshittingham, we saw him in the 66 earlier, getting a little bit squirrely, but James Heck behind him in eighth, Ron Maiden in ninth position, and Damon DeSantis, the man I mentioned a moment ago, is in 10th at the moment, just ahead of John Cloud. Now, is Mrs. Cloud out there?
Debbie is racing with us in Group 10 in a modern TA2 car, but John Cloud is going to be racing with us in Group 6 in that Grabber Blue Boss 302 with Cobra Automotive. He's racing in Group 10 against his wife in a TA2 car, and then he's racing TA2.
I was about to say, how many of these drivers, I mean, we've got, you know, over, what, 300 or 400 cars out. How many of these drivers do swapsies?
I'd say probably 10 to 15% race SVRA and Trans Am, and I'd say probably 10 or 15% race more than one car over the weekend.
So then, 10 minutes to go. Scott Borchetta's got a healthy lead. He's got it less than a second, though, so he's not out the woods by any means, but he's doing a really good job. I said from the start of this race he needed to get a good run on the much more modern Mustang that he's up against. Like you said, where the new Mustang from 2013 has the advantages under braking, of course.
I got a good story about Jonathan DeGainer right there in that Devon that we just saw. That is his dad's car. John usually races another Group 4 Devon with us, and his dad fell under some bad health last year, so he's racing that in honor of his dad. His dad is fine now, so we really appreciate that. Nice job. But Jonathan's a great racer. Like I said, he's our Group 4 champion from a few years ago.
High above the Sebring. I tell you what, getting an RV and heading out into the infield, where that RV is in the middle of your shot right now, that's a perfect spot to be. I've stood there before, and it's nice to banked up there, so you can see them coming through the complex at 3, 4, and then under the bridge at 5, and then down to this hairpin. And of course, the hotel is right by there, the sort of on-site hotel. So a lot of the drivers will try to stay there, but it's got a premium in terms of everybody wants to stay there, so you've got to book early if you want to stay at the actual circuit itself.
There's Hugh Booker right there coming around 17. And I'm honored to say that one of my favorite Group 6 drivers, Todd Treffert, is watching us. He drives an unbelievable Porsche 911. Wish he was here, but if you go to our Facebook, you can look at some footage of him. We're going to be loading up here from a few years ago, one of the best races we've had. As we look at Tursilla right there, can Jim Farley from Ford Motor Company pass a Ford Mustang? Is he allowed to do that, ladies and gentlemen? He's got 2 Mustangs in front of him. I'm not sure that the company will allow him to do it, but of course they will, because he's a racer. And Ford is all about motorsports and racing. Happy to have them here. This is our Group 6 and Group 12. Again, we've got about 9 minutes left in this race. Please go and download the SVRA app or the Trans Am app to get some great racing all weekend long at the Sebring Speed Tour. Record ticket sales, almost doubling our car show attendance. Thank you, everybody involved.
Yeah, car show, 407.
There it is, Jim Farley. Look at that car. I love the lines of that. You can see him really getting the wheel. He says, Dan Gurney for president. Smoking a little bit. I don't know if that looks like it might be some fuel cell venting. I'm not sure if that was smoke or not. But here we go. These two race together. The white Mustang and the red Mustang are part of Griffin Motorsports. Billy Griffin was our GT champion last year in Trans Am. He's brought these two along that are running in SVRA. And I don't think there's any team orders with Griffin Motorsports, so let's see if they can get around each other.
Great looking car. Okay, I changed my pick. I want that. That's the car I want. James Dolan.
Yeah, James
You won't see
Dolan.
me nick it.
And that
GT350.
GT350, beautiful car. I think that's actually his son's car.
Now, come on, this was built in 66.
Yeah.
Now, surely shouldn't I have dibs on that?
You should. You know, you should go tell him, and maybe he'll wrap it up in a bow and say, happy birthday, Jonathan.
There you go.
Maybe if you convince the camera guys to just stay on him all race.
So we're watching our action from the first of our SVRA group races here for the first round from Sebring. Ben Sissel and Jonathan Green bringing you the action from SVRA. And of course, coming up later, we have qualifying for Trans Am. And we've got two great races. Quite a few changes this year. And great to see champions like Ken Thwaites taking on the TA class this year. Heard from him earlier, and he's learning. He's like a sponge at the moment. But the man who won the first ever XGT Championship will be taking part in TA. And there's several more stories we'll bring you up to date with all that action later in the day. But it's Porschetta, Lasco, Holly, Moore, and Lindstrom. That's your top 5 in the Group 6 and 12A battle. And here's that lovely painted Porsche, the light blue. Pretty good suspension to given how bumpy the track is. And there's my car. I say that, my car. That's the one I've got my eyes on now.
Stephen Coleman right there in his Group 6 TA. What TA means is Trans Am. That means that the car was built to Trans Am specifications back in the day. We all know that one of the heydays, I feel like there's 3 heydays of Trans Am. We're living in one right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Then there was the kind of Dorsey, Schrader, Tommy Kendall era, and then there was the era of the 1966 to 1972 of the pony car wars, and that car was built to those specifications right there. We've got Scott Borchetta, a current TA2 driver, in the lead in his EP Corvette, battling against Phil Lasco, who's raced in the TA2 series years ago with us, and he switched to SVRA. So there's a lot of back and forth in this. And Todd Treffert, if you're watching, you'd be right up there mixing up front with him. We miss you out here. Hope you can come to some events this year. And who's in that Corvette right there? I can't see that.
John Miller.
That car really swung out there wide on the hairpin. The number 11 John Miller Corvette.
You know, I often get asked about, you know, Trans Am, and we got 5 categories, and they're like, why do you have production cars in your Trans Am series? That doesn't make sense. And I'm like, you know what? If you know the history, it does, because it was started as a Trans-American Sedan Championship, and a lot of the cars you're looking at right now were some of those forebears to what Trans Am all began. And of course, when you see the Porsches and you see the Jaguars out there, the reason Trans Am took off was it was to beat the European cars, which were making such inroads into the American scene of racing. The more nimble, the smaller Porsches, and they said, forget that, let's build our own and put some muscle car in it, put some muscle to it.
Well, that's a beautiful Porsche right there, piloted right now by scoring by David Hinton. As we look, here it is. Jim Farley has passed Hugh Booker right there from Griffin in that white Mustang. We do have a lot of Fords in the field right now.
That's a beautiful car too, that car number 5 of Stephen Shoddy in the Shelby Cobra, the all-silver Shelby Cobra that just went through shop.
It's not even silver, it's aluminum.
Yeah.
No paint on that car, I love it.
66 coming through shot. We've been talking about him throughout this race. And Wallow Birchinger in the Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport.
That's Fred Beasley right there in his Group 12, 5th in 12 MP.
Pretty little Porsche.
22nd overall. Yeah, I love the lines of the Porsches. And I love the fact that since the 356, even to today, the lines are basically the same.
I was about to say, that's the one thing that you can tell. People talk about the evolution of cars and how they change. Well, the Porsche 911 effectively has literally been the same basic shape forever. And in terms of performance, it hasn't dropped a notch.
Look at that. I love the looks of that car. That looks like a proper British sports car. Robert Bowden right there. He's also driving a Devon with a 327 engine. That's why he's in Group 6. Does look to have skinnier tires than DeGainer. But man, what a beautiful car. As we did get the last lap, RC and race control just gave the last lap as Bowden gives Scott Borchetta the look around those S's, the twisty bits, as they come under the new bridge at Sebring.
Well, while we've been taking a look at the whole field, Scott Borchetta has been pushing hard. He's taken a 5.7 second lead over Phil Lasco in the number 98 Corvette.
Now watch this, because there's Jeff Lindstrom with Griffin Motorsports. There's 4 of those cars out here with us this weekend, but 1 in Trans Am. I think Gary Moore has used up his tires a little bit, and Lindstrom's trying to get in there. And then there's Jeff Holley just in front, really trying to make it through with that beautiful Jaguar E-Type. But man, this is some great racing here in this mixed class. Now that Cougar is a Group 6 car. Lindstrom is in the Group. There is our Group 6B production current leader, Scott Borchetta, in the 98. Last year he was here. He shared driving duties with Bobby Labonte in that car in our Enduro. He's out here racing it. And actually his teammate in his new NASCAR team, he bought a NASCAR team in the Xfinity Series, is racing, I believe today, Jade Buford at Daytona. So let's all root for Jade Buford with the Big Machine Vodka, Scott Borchetta's team in the Xfinity Series in the Daytona Road Course.
Yeah, Big Machine, of course, a big sponsor now, both in the Nashville Grand Prix and also in NASCAR at Indianapolis. And several, you'll see the name in several NASCAR entries as well. So they've been a big follower of motorsports. But Scott Borchetta is going to take another Group 6 win. How many championships has he won in Group 6?
This will he's won 2 championships, I believe, in Group 6. He just started road racing just 3-4 years ago. I've never seen somebody get so good, so fast. Congratulations, Scott Borchetta, Dylan, and the whole Super 98 Customs team.
Scott Borchetta then wins our first race of SVRA for 2021, and he comes across the line ahead of Phil Lasco in the Ford Mustang from 2013, the all-red entry, picking up some dirt and debris at the end there. And Scott Holley it is in the tiny number.
He's going to come around here pretty soon.
63.
Let's see how wide he gets.
Yeah. We're just waiting for him as he will come around Sunset Bend.
Oh, we got a replay here.
Yeah, the door was flying open.
Actually, that's Scott's air brakes. He was a little bit too hot into there, so he put out his flaps.
He put out his flaps. Well, he was ready. He was ready for his interview with you, so he was just getting the door latch ready. He wanted to leap out.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Scott Borchetta, a legend in Nashville. He's got so many great music artists on his label, Big Machine Records, Big Machine Vodka. Now he's got a new Big Machine Spiked. But as we've seen, one of the hardest workers in our paddock to get good at road racing. Congratulations, Scott Borchetta.
He's also providing all the hand sanitizer we use, and they have their own hand sanitizer process. Yeah. So that concludes our first race, Group 6 and Group 12A, and that also wraps up our live stream. We want you to for now go down and subscribe to our apps and download them and subscribe and join us for the rest of the day's coverage. But that puts in the books our first race of the day. Download the app and join us in a moment. Scott Borchetta wins the first race of 2021 with Phil Lasco in second place and Scott Holley in third. Hey race fans, this is a replay, but to be able to watch the finest vintage racing in America live, download the app or scan the QR code and subscribe. Available on both Android and iOS, this is the only place to watch the 2021 season of SVRA live with over 10 hours of coverage each and every weekend. Our unique live stream coverage will bring you all the action from each group, as well as live timing, results and news from the biggest collection of vintage races in the USA. Subscriptions for the race weekend are just $9.99 per weekend or $59.99 for the season. To subscribe, download the SVRA app or scan the QR code now and be part of the future of American vintage racing with SVRA.